and a host of legislators spent over a decade and numerous rounds of public consultation agreeing the specific provisions of the National Conservation Act, which passed unanimously in 2013. The Act establishes the National Conservation Council that was created to promote and secure biological diversity and the sustainable use of natural resources in the Cayman Islands. Many in our community feel directly the continuing loss of Cayman's natural heritage and a growing increase of the concern that our native habitats and the unique plants and animals will not be known by the generations that follow us. At present, the Act provides the only legal means of giving effect to the constitutionally protected principles of sustainability, whereby social, economic, and environmental perspectives have equal weight at the table. The National Conservation Council has a mandate to ensure that we can continue to enjoy the magic of Cayman's biodiversity for many generations to come. But to be successful, we all must work together as a community to build and preserve the Cayman that we want and wish for our children to inherit.
30 seconds.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the National Conservation Council's public meeting. Mr. Secretary, could you confirm we have a quorum?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, you are correct.
Okay, and could you proceed with the agenda items?
Yes, sir. The first agenda will be to ask if any members have any interest to declare.
No?
Thank you.
No.
Okay, thank you, everybody. And in that case, before we commence our normal agenda, I'd just like to make a statement in view of certain public events that have been taking place recently. And given the recent press coverage on matters relating to the work and functioning of the National Conservation Council, I wish to make a brief statement before we begin our meeting. Although the National Conservation Council has not yet been formally or officially consulted on any possible changes to the National Conservation Act, Council wishes to express its grave concerns after the publication of the Cayman News Service article last week, which reported details of the alleged amendments. The Council is particularly concerned about some of the possible proposed amendments and what appears to be a misinformation campaign designed to discredit the National Conservation Act and the work of both the National Conservation Council and the Department of the Environment. The passage of the National Conservation Act in 2013 has enabled the Cayman Islands government to fulfill its duty under Section 18 of the Bill of Rights in the Cayman Islands Constitution Order, which states, "Government shall, in all its decisions, have due regard to the need to foster and protect an environment that is not harmful to the health or well-being of present and future generations, while promoting justifiable economic and social development. 2, to this end, government should adopt reasonable legislative and other measures to protect the heritage and wildlife and the land and sea biodiversity of the Cayman Islands that limit the pollution and ecological degradation, promote conservation and biodiversity, and secure ecological sustainable development and use of natural resources." The National Conservation Act also enables the Cayman Islands government to meet its commitments under several international multilateral environmental agreements, included but not limited to the Convention on Biological Diversity and the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands. Additionally, the NCA enables the Cayman Islands government to fulfill its responsibilities under the Cayman Islands Environment Charter, which was signed by the UK Minister for the Overseas Territories and by the Honourable Makiva Bush OBE JP MP on the 26th of September 2001. The Environment Charter includes guiding principles and a set of mutual commitments by the UK government and the government of the Cayman Islands in respect of integrating environmental conservation into all sectors of policy planning and implementation. Precedent from the Bermuda courts clarifies that the Environment Charter is in fact a legally binding agreement. In 2012, prior to the passage of the NCA, the UK government commissioned an assessment of environmental protection frameworks in the UK overseas territories. The assessment focused on species, sites, developmental control, and people, and a report was produced by the Foundation for International Environment Law and Development Field and the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, the RSPB, in February of 2013. The results revealed that along with the Pitcairn Islands, the Cayman Islands was the only one of 16 UK overseas territories to have been assessed as weak across all areas. In relation to development control, the report noted, integration of environmental concerns into the planning procedures is weak and there are no formal EIA requirements. The draft National Conservation Bill would introduce a formal process for the triggering and scoping and conducting of EIAs. The development plan for Grand Cayman is from 1997, despite the law requiring review every 5 years. Other development plans are absent. In relation to the area of people, the report stated that political accountability for decision-making is limited, as is the extent of transparency and consultation. The report also confirmed that enactment of the draft National Conservation Bill was seen as necessary for the strengthening environmental governance in all areas other than development control, which required updating of the development plan for Grand Cayman and the creation of development plans for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. The various provisions of the NCA are therefore necessary to support and provide for a robust environmental governance framework for the ultimate benefit of the people of the country. All of the provisions of the NCA embody the best international practice, such as the Act's use of precautionary principle, which acknowledged the likely significant risk of adverse effects or the potential for irreversible damage as reasons to fully consider the environmental implication of all our decisions and plans, and to err on the side of caution when all the relevant information is not immediately available. This is why it is imperative that the competencies and expertise of the Department of Environment continue to be available to assist Council with the proper and efficient discharges of its functions and duties, and that the requirement for the majority of Council members to possess relevant technical or scientific expertise remains a part of the Act. With the passage of the recent rainy weather and the resulting flooding of roads and residential areas, the benefits of making evidence-based decisions to protect human life, property, the economy, and the natural environment are obvious, hopefully, to all. Hopefully, it should also be obvious to everyone living in the country that despite the dire predictions of its detractors, the various provisions of the NCA have not in fact impeded economic growth and development since its passage in 2013. The official government statistics certainly bear this out. The NCC strongly believes that the NCA is extremely important to our collective efforts to preserve our Caymanian identity and our quality of life. There is a growing body of evidence which shows that a healthy environment, which is underpinned by strong legislative protections, is a prerequisite for healthy people as well as a healthy economy. The NCC is therefore resolute in its belief that the various provisions of the NCA are absolutely essential for the sustainability and viability of our country now and in the future. Any amendments to the Act which dilute the Council's ability to act efficiently or that result in poorer conservation outcomes and a substandard environmental governance framework for the people and the natural environment of the Cayman Islands are ill-advised and are therefore strongly discouraged. Council is also aware that there has been significant public interest in a second judicial review of a recent CPA decision to approve an after-the-fact application for the construction of a road in an environmentally sensitive area in the eastern interior of Grand Cayman. The CPA decision violates the consultation provision of the NCA, similar to the unlawful decision of the Boggy Sand Road proposal, which resulted in the Grand Court and Court of Appeal finding in favor of the NCC. Based on legal advice, the NCC filed a judicial review as it appears to be the only legal way to have the unlawful CPA decision quashed and revert to them for proper consultation under the NCA and in accordance with the recent Court of Appeal judgment. As one of the parties to the judicial review, there is nothing which can be said that is not already a matter of public record, other than it remains our hope that a negotiated rather than a litigated resolution can be achieved between the parties. And thank you for your time and attention. So shall we resume the regular agenda items now?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we can. The next thing for council will be the confirmation of the minutes from the 3rd of April 2024. They were previously circulated to members. I don't know if any of the members have any questions or issues about them. Or if any member would like to move that they be accepted by consensus.
I propose we accept the minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
From Steve, I'll second.
Thank you, Steve. Then through you, Mr. Chairman, the next thing would be if there's any matters arising from the minutes. I didn't note any before the meeting, but obviously if any council members have anything they want to raise. Otherwise, sir, the next thing would be the deal of the DOE reports. If you'd like me to proceed.
Yes, thank you.
So first, just noting for council's reference, as was the responses to Section 41 consultations that the Department of Environment has been putting out over the first quarter of this year. The number and the timelines that we've been hitting. The ones that where they weren't able to get it out within the roughly 3-week target time would have been those ones where where the department had to go back to the applicants for additional information or to find out things or consult with the applicants before making an informed delegated decision. If council members don't have any questions about those, as they were all circulated in advance. The other thing, again, just for council's note, is the seizure report from the Department of Environment for the first quarter of this year. As council members will recall, it is a requirement under the Act that when our enforcement officers seize things, it is reported to council for your reference. This is usually the seafood, whatever they were poaching, but it could hypothetically be other items and materials, which is particularly why it would be reported to council. However, this quarter it was really just the poached material. Council had asked to know when it was repeat offenders being found or if it was sort of new people. That all information is in there. It's back and forth, all depending on the situation. As a non-specific, how to say this, not a scientifically accurate sample, statistically significant sample, but usually a lot of the ones that we get where it was someone new, it is a bit, they're trying something. They kind of know what they're doing is wrong, but they're just trying something on, like taking a little bit extra whelks or something in season. The times when we get repeat offenders is often because they know exactly what they're doing and they're going for a significant haul, such as poaching over 100 conch out of a protected area and doing other poaching at the same time. But that information is there for council's reference. Any members have any questions about the seizure report or anything else DOE is doing? DOE public education outreach continues, including items related to the Conservation Council or on behalf of the Conservation Council. So the Salvia caymanensis public consultation that is ongoing now, we keep putting out reminders of that. And other ongoing outreach on the council's behalf of issues that the council is driving. I don't believe there is any particular climate change report from this last quarter. But there has been activity on the environmental assessment boards.
Yes, Mr. Chair, through you.
Thank you.
I can report on those. So at the moment, there are in fact only 3 EIAs going on. The ISWIM's EIA has been concluded, so we probably need to take that off of our standing agenda for reports. So starting then with the airports, those 3 environmental impact assessments, well, they're in the stage now where they should be appointing consultants to start preparing the terms of reference. So that is still with the Airports Authority. There's nothing on the EAB's agenda at the moment for those particular EIAs. Next is the Port Zeus EIA. That does have some forward movement. The EAB approved the terms of reference for public consultation, and in communications with the proponents of that project recently, it appears that they're planning to do that public consultation in or around early July. We don't have a specific date, but that's the proposal, and obviously the consultation would take place on Cayman Brac. The other EIA that we have going on, of course, everybody's aware of, the East-West Arterial. At the moment, again, there is nothing in the EAB's court in relation to this environmental impact assessment. We are now at the stage where the selection of the preferred alternative is taking place. That decision has been put to cabinet by the ministry which has responsibility for the NRA. The EAB provided our input to the selection process, obviously based on the current results from the EIA some time ago, but we are not aware of exactly where the cabinet's deliberations are in relation to the selection of the preferred alternative. So once the preferred alternative has been selected, then the NRA's EIA consultants, WRA, will then continue to do the more detailed environmental assessment on the exact route of the preferred alternative. And following that, we will then be in a position to assemble the technical chapters of the environmental impact assessment, which have already been reviewed by the EAB in relation to the 3 alternatives that have been being assessed to determine the preferred alternative. Those will then be assembled into a concise document outlining the likely effects of the preferred alternative route on the environment and vice versa. So that's where we're at. We basically have nothing in the EAB's court at the moment in either of these EIAs, and we're waiting for decision makers in relation to the East-West Arterial, and then we're just waiting for the TOR consultation for Port Zeus. Any questions? Let me know, please.
No, could we move on?
So if there's no questions from the members, the next item for members' consideration is an application for a spare gun renewal, but with spent conservation convictions. So if I can just recap for members. In 2012, the applicant was charged for taking 30 Conk and Frank Sound. In 2013, he was sentenced for that. He then applied for a spare gun license application that year and received it, but between 2015 and 2024, because he then had a conviction, there was no application for the renewal. This year, he has applied for a spare gun license. The applicant currently has a clean police record. We confirm that he still got his original spare gun, matching what was in the DOE records. The applicant's spare gun is eligible for renewal, and if not for this old conviction, the DOE would not bring it to the council. We'll just process it, renew the license. However, as there is a known previous conservation conviction, the DOE felt it could not issue this license on a delegated authority, and so refers it to the council. DOE would like to ask the council to decide on the spare gun license renewal application, and then depending on what you decide, let the DOE know whether they should continue to consider that 2012 conservation conviction as a reason for not doing normal renewals in the future, or consider it spent.
Mr. Chair, I believe that sorry, Mr. Chair, Lucille here. I believe that it may be wise for us to interview this young man or young person to ascertain if this is a business that he wants to continue in the right way, and find out a little more about what he's planning to do. I think that might have been the consensus, sir.
Yes, thank you. Perhaps the secretary could confirm, is it in our discretion to, as the previous offense is spent, is it not a requirement that we not consider that?
No, sir. I think it is within council's discretion to consider it. It is a known past event. It's just really a question of how much weight council wants to put to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Secretary, may I ask if you could give us a general range of age of the applicant?
Actually, I cannot. And unfortunately, I didn't bring any of the not public information with me today, so I couldn't even look it up. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But considering that the person's had a spare gun license from at least 20 or the late 2010s, the person is probably going to be at least middle-aged. Yeah.
But if I can ask, Secretary, can you remind the council the requirements to be eligible as police clearance, Cayman? If the requirements are clearly stated, then we should probably follow those.
Yes, the requirements are really just that you're a Caymanian. Council can then take into account what other information it wants, particularly if the person has a record or a history of criminal activity, but particularly anything with violence or a conservation issues. If this was not a conservation previous conviction, it probably wouldn't even have come up to council now. It would have been a spent conviction. DOE wouldn't have known about it. It wouldn't come up. It was just because this was a well-spent but still a conservation conviction that it is purely at the council's discretion how to consider this spare gun application.
Mr. Chair. Sorry, Ms. Lucille, I just wanted
No,
to make...
you go ahead, madam.
Thank you. I just wanted to make one correction. John, I think it is also a requirement that applicants are 18 years or older, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So it's
Sorry.
Caymanian and 18 years or older are the two sort of chief requirements for consideration for a license.
And of course, to have a spare gun to renew. But
Yes.
yes.
I still maintain, as the person is older and modifying in a way his behavior, I still think that we should take him up either by the DOE or by the council, have a great talk with him and to have a face-to-face interaction with him or her, I don't know whether it's a her or him, to ascertain if he's not going to take this on as an occupation, but do it in the right way. I maintain that that's what we do, and I hope that I will get the support.
Mr. Chair, through you, certainly the DOE does not have any objection to speaking with the applicant. I guess what I would need from council is some guidance on what happens next if we speak with the applicant and we're convinced generally that he has sort of mended his ways, as Ms. Lucille said. Would we then be able to issue the license, or would you prefer us to come back to council? Does not matter to us. We will just need to know the will of council. So I would like.
But I think we can agree here on giving him caution, and if he does move away from what he decided he would do with us, then you take away his license.
Fair enough.
I'm in favor as long as it's handled relatively quickly.
Anybody else wish to speak to this?
Maybe Ms. Lucille would like to sit in with the interview conducted by the DOE representative,
Sure.
and she could represent the council.
I have no objection to that.
Okay, Ms. Lucille, we'll communicate with you then about a time.
Certainly.
Okay?
And then we can just bring it back to council for update, and
Yeah.
council can decide then what it wants to do.
Well, I think Ms. Lucille could represent council in that
And
matter.
if they're satisfied,
Yeah.
issue the license. I don't think we need to bring it back to council.
I agree.
Okay. Sounds
Yes.
good.
Agreed.
Thank you.
So if I can, just for the record, I think council, the motion from council would essentially be to delegate to the DOE and member Ms. Lucille to interview the person, and on that delegated authority then decide whether to proceed with issuing the license or not.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Obviously, some member of the council might want to sort of make that as a motion and then vote on it. Council need to vote on it.
I'll move Pierre.
Thank you.
I'll second it, Steve.
And members for?
In favor?
Or
All in favor?
Richard, in favour.
I'm abstaining.
I'll abstain.
Mr. Chairman, Tim Austin, I will also abstain.
Thank you.
And any members against? Just, okay. Mr. Chairman, if you can just give me 1 minute to finish making my notes here.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. The next one for council is very similar. This one is a fish pot license, again with convictions. In April 2024, we received the application for license, or DOE received the application for license for 2 fish pots. The no record, the applicant previously holding a fish pot license. The applicant provided a police record detailing several convictions, including, but the last one was in 2017. There are no conservation convictions on the police record. The DOE checked its records, and we have no record of any incidences with this applicant of any kind of conservation nature. The applicant is eligible for grant of the fish pot license, and if not for the police record, DOE would not bring this to council. We would just process the issue of the license. However, due to the police record, again, we felt this was a little bit odd bringing it to the council. At council's request, the DOE did speak with the applicant. Tim, Deputy Director Tim, I don't know if you can able to speak to that.
Mr. Chairman, through you to the Secretary, I would just say, yes, sorry, John, I had prepared quite a lengthy submission to carry this to Council, so thank you for the opportunity. But yeah, as Secretary mentioned previously, a similar situation and one that the Council had already kind of directed an approach. I think the important point here is this, as John has already mentioned, we would not usually bring this to Council. But given the nature of the record, the police records that were there, we thought this was kind of the right approach to do, and I hope that demonstrates the seriousness with which the DOE takes the delegation, the responsibilities of delegation. So, at the Council's suggestion, we met with the applicant, our Chief Enforcement Officer, and other members of the Department of Environment met with the young man. And it was quite obvious from the interview with him that his life had taken a different path since his last conviction in 2017. He wanted to carry forward his father's tradition as a seafarer. He has an operational water sports license. He's applying for fish pots, which is probably a little level below a spear gun, but still requires a clean police record. He definitely seemed contrite. There is no doubt that this individual wanted to take a different path, and I think, although Ms. Lucille, you weren't present, he did convince our DOE interview panel that he was legitimate and that this would be a great responsibility to him that he would take seriously. So in our opinion, he did come across as understanding the rules. He was introduced to the DOE app, and it was quite clear that he wanted to change his life and to do things appropriately. And to that regard, we felt there was no real hindrance to him taking on this license. Obviously, this decision is down to the Council, but that's a summary of where we were at with our meeting. And John, I don't know whether you want to proceed with the motion and the various things you put together, but yeah, I'm happy to fill in if there's any other requests that the Council feels they would like to hear about.
Thank you. Just that again, DOE is asking the Council to decide on whether the fish pots should be licensed, and whatever you decide, whether DOE should continue to consider the old convictions, reason for not processing the renewals in the future, or not.
Mr. Chair, based on the fact that this tradition is dying, and based on the fact that Mr. Tim gave such a passionate, convincing comment on behalf of the person, I would move that we take his advice and renew and give him his license. But at the same time, with a caution again.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, and to Ms. Lucille, I omitted that part. The individual was well aware that any infractions of the license conditions would actually become a breach of the law. So he knows that this is a significant undertaking to do this responsibly. So hopefully that sticks and he lives up to his word.
Can we second it?
Yeah, if you,
Yes.
Yes.
I second Mrs. Lucille's proposal.
thank you. And members care to vote on this, please?
I'm in favor.
In favor.
Thank you.
I'm in favor too.
In favor, Pierre.
In favor.
I'm in favour.
I'm abstaining.
Mr. Chairman, Tim Ossendeary, I think I will abstain also.
Thank you.
And just for the record, any members against? And members, just how do you wish us to proceed? How do you wish DOE to proceed on the renewal when it comes up in a year or so? Do you want this to come back to council, or do we just not worry about treat those
I don't want it to
convictions
come back to council, no.
as- Thank you.
Yeah, I think provided that he's had a clean,
If there are no infractions,
Okay.
that's part of DOE's day-to-day responsibility.
Mr. Chair, through you, I think it would be nice to report that we have got through the year and without any incidences, just to show that the individual has lived up to the expectations that we put upon him. Perhaps we can hear from that in a year's time.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you all. Through you, Mr. Chairman, the next thing is just to note for members that the next two general meetings are 11th of September and 4th of December. Same logistics. Wednesday is 2 p.m. The meetings will be broadcast live on DOE YouTube, as they are now. And again, through you, Mr. Chairman, other than that, if there's any other business of council.
If we're still here.
Any other business? Seems there's no other business, John, so I think we can declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Several government administrations and a host of legislators spent over a decade and numerous rounds of public consultation agreeing the specific provisions of the National Conservation Act, which passed unanimously in 2013. The Act establishes the National Conservation Council that was created to promote and secure biological diversity and the sustainable use of natural resources in the Cayman Islands. Many in our community feel directly the continuing loss of Cayman's natural heritage and are growing increasingly concerned that our native habitats and unique plants and animals will not be known by the generations that follow us. At present, the Act provides the only legal means of giving effect to the constitutionally protected principles of sustainability, whereby social, economic, and environmental perspectives have equal weight at the table. The National Conservation Council has a mandate to ensure that we can continue to enjoy the magic of Cayman's biodiversity for many generations to come. But to be successful, we all must work together as a community to build, and preserve the Cayman that we want and wish for our children to inherit.
What if there was a way for science to reliably predict the outcomes of certain actions before they caused irreversible damage? Well, we can't quite do that, but we can come close with an EIA. It's understandable why an environmental impact assessment is often misunderstood to investigate only how a project will impact the environment. But an EIA is so much more than that. An EIA brings together scientists and experts from different disciplines to explore the major parts of a big project. They assess what the likely impacts will be for all of us, both socially and economically, as well as for wildlife and the natural environment. An environmental impact assessment also shows how all the different parts of a project can work together to reduce things like air and noise pollution and avoid unwanted outcomes like increased flooding or other severe and costly unintended impacts. It's important to remember that an EIA is not a decision. It's an information report that usually explores multiple options so people can weigh the pros and cons of each one of them before they make their fully informed decision. In Cayman, the EIA includes a public consultation, which ensures that we all get a chance to say what should be considered and that it has been done properly. While this may seem like a lot of work, an environmental impact assessment only adds a % or 2 to the cost of a project, while the benefits of knowing how best to proceed, priceless.
Our climate is changing, and so is Cayman. Stronger and more frequent hurricanes, longer periods of drought, sea level rise, and higher temperatures are already impacting our communities, livelihoods, and our security. While we alone can't prevent the changing climate or natural disasters, we can act locally to minimize the impact to our communities. If we take nature into account before we act, we can harness nature's benefits and reduce the devastation caused by natural disasters. Cayman is partnering with the UK government to identify solutions to reduce the risks of flooding from storms, improve the ability of our lands and seas to bounce back after disasters and make them healthier, and to use the strength of nature to fortify the coastline and protect the landscape around our homes. We are nurtured by nature, because when we put nature front and center, nature can provide the solutions. Our rich and diverse natural environment is one of our most important assets. Our clear turquoise waters, vibrant reefs, and white sand beaches attract visitors to our shores every year. Our dry forests provide refuge for wildlife and revitalize our soil. But our islands provide us with so much more than that. These same natural assets can also protect us from disasters. Strong coral reefs are our first line of defense against intense storm waves. Healthy seagrass beds and mangrove forests slow down powerful waves, protect the coast, and provide a nursery for the sea creatures we depend on. Native coastal plants, like mangroves and sea grape trees, fortify our coastline and reduce the risk of erosion and flooding from storms, while our native forests stimulate our rain cycles and help to control inland flooding. From ridge to reef, we are nurtured by nature. Stop, take a picture, breathe it all in. Our incredible Cayman Islands are home to everything we love. We need to protect their natural bounty so they can continue to protect us. Cayman is partnering with the UK government to better understand how nature can keep our communities safe and create new opportunities for jobs and livelihoods. Economic resilience requires environmental resilience.